Viewer discretion is advised. Drinking and driving is bad. There's a lot of things I can do in gaming that you can't do IRL. I could be an outlaw. I could be a plan if I wanted to. One thing I'll never get to experience IRL is the thrill of drinking and driving. Thankfully, I got Mario Kart for that. But deep into another round of Toad's Turnpike and all that crazy traffic, you know, I thought of something. Is there alcohol in the Mario universe? If I were Mario, I'd want to relax in the castle walls with a nice Modelo or something after, you know, saving the princess again. What about the rest of the Mario universe? Do they drink? And that leads to another question. What tracks are the best for drinking and driving on? But I'm getting ahead of myself. First, we got to establish alcohol exists in Mario somewhere. So Super Mario Kart has one of the earliest depictions of alcohol in the series. If you get any kind of placement with Peach and Bowser on the podium, they'll start drinking champagne. It's cool, but they're not doing it just to get turned. In most sports, a champagne shower comes after you win the tournament or the championship, something like that. And it was actually a celebration created in 1966 during an F1 podium ceremony. So the reference is pretty cool. And that means we know that there's at least some decently potent stuff in Mario. So we're off to a good start. But nobody drinks champagne and drives. It's usually a nice beer or something. But in terms of Mario games, there's not really any kind of like real depictions of alcohol per se. In the Thousand Year Door, we do see a bar where kegs and bottles are visible. This is a heavy implication that alcohol does exist, but that's kind of cheating because you're just looking at background elements and calling it a day. I want something hard, something concrete that we could hang our hats on and say, yep, there's alcohol. Unless you want to count like Mario Kart Tour having Germany and having all the Oktoberfest stuff, unfortunately, there's just not much else in any Mario game. Thank God for Wario! Enter Wario Land 2. There is an enemy that literally throws beer at Wario, making him drunk! Of course, since this was the Japan version, it got localized and changed, with the American version labeling him as Crazy Wario, and the other one depicting him as Drunk Wario. He was drunk. And the penguin who actually hurls beer at Wario started throwing balls at him. Now, I would much rather have beer thrown at me than balls, but hey, I mean, I don't know what to say. So there we have it. Alcohol exists in the Mario world, but that doesn't necessarily mean Mario's throwing them back just because they're there, you know? Let's take that initial question and expand on it for a second. Which Mario characters would drink alcohol? Specifically the ones that have been in karts before. Now, there are a ton of characters throughout the entire Mario Kart series. I'm going to be counting them from Super Mario Kart and then going all the way to Mario Kart World, which I totally own, by the way, as you could tell by my Nintendo Switch 2. So, to make this a little more digestible, I've kind of thrown them into a couple of tiers. You know, sober, you know, they rarely drink, they're a social drinker, they drink pretty often, and of course, the alcoholics. So starting off with the sober tier, we have all the babies, even baby Wario. I thought about putting him in rarely, but that's just kind of mean. The Koopalings! I only have half of the Koopalings here, the ones you see here. I am not going through all their names, but what's his name? Ludwig's here. I know Ludwig is here. These four, they don't drink because Bowser probably told them they can't drink and they respect Bowser enough not to. The other four, no, not at all, but we'll get to them eventually. Most of Bowser's minions I have right here, mainly because these are the ones that are kind of like, I don't really see them drinking at all. This is just the bat. Like, I don't know what you expect from the bat, but I don't think he's going home from his 9 to 5 and cranking out one of these, you know? Like, Birdo, similar to a lot of the minions, just no thoughts. Plus, she's a mother, and, you know, she's a mother, so she's probably not going to be drinking like that, so... Petey Piranha's here because if you give him water, he explodes. The Dry Bowser, Dry Bones are here, mainly just because, you know, the trope. It, like, goes through their body, and that doesn't really count, so they can't really drink. Oh, well. Now, here's an interesting one. The Inklings. I feel like if they drank alcohol, they would disintegrate like a slug. Like if you ever pour salt on a slug, which God forbid you do that, but if you ever do that, that's what I would imagine the Inklings would do. They'd just start fizzling up. So Metal Mario and the Peach and then the Gold Mario, they probably don't drink. They're metal, like it's not gonna affect them. Diddy! So I'm sure Diddy's tried before, but I feel like DK is a good enough like sibling / guardian to like slap it out of his hands and be like, no. No. Definitely, like, unless Funky Kong lets him sip his beer every now and again when DK's not looking, but that doesn't count. That's still sober. Rob, he's a robot. He's also a bike now, so he can't really drink. He's drinking gasoline. So I don't think Luigi drinks, mainly because, like, how would you be able to drink after seeing what happened in Luigi's Mansion? Like, seriously. That would kill me. That would take me off this thing forever, you know? I just feel like he's a very responsible older brother. He's not gonna drink like that. Even if he does, it's like very small, you know, like, yeah, I just don't really see him drinking that much, to be honest. So rarely I have Lakitu up here, mainly because he has a respectable job and he can't really show up drunk. I wouldn't drink like that if I had people's lives depending on my work. Like, I wouldn't be drinking like that. So maybe every once in a while, but definitely not all the time. And then we have Toadette. I feel like she would drink it and she'd just find the stuff gross, like icky. She'd definitely be like a margarita, like Paloma girl. Like, I don't think she would definitely drink the fruitier drinks. And then we have the other 4 Koopaling. Lemmy, Roy, Wendy, and BJR. Those 4 I feel like are crazy enough to like definitely sneak some of Bowser's stuff when they're not looking, probably empty out the vodka bottle and replace it with water type stuff, The Pinata people, the ones from Sunshine. Yeah, they definitely drink socially. I feel like that's something they would definitely do. Cataquacks, I feel like they could just throw them down like it's nothing, mainly just because they're literally just a beak that goes like up and down like that, so I feel like they'd be good at that. Queen Bee, I feel like she definitely drinks at like, regalia events and stuff, so it's definitely social drinking. Yeah. Peachette, I feel like when Toadette becomes Peachette, she becomes a little bit more relaxed. That's the vibe I get, at least from Peachette. Like, she's there to get turned, to have fun, Toadette's at home, Peachette is here, that kind of deal. The villagers, being a mayor is hard work. Cracking open a cold one is not a big deal to them. King Boo! Ghosts, I feel, are different in this case because they can just, like, absorb the alcohol versus, like, the dry bones from earlier, so they get the pass. Now, I feel like Yoshi would definitely down, like, that, like, apple fruit. If they had that, like, in a wine or, like, a cocktail or something, he would down, like, 10 of those. He's one to get turned, like, on the social side, He's not gonna do it on his own. Then I have Pauline and Peach here as well. Mainly just because, well, they're both kind of, like, famous, regal, kind of royalty. Well, at least one of them is. The other one's more famous. And I feel like they would drink on, like, certain occasions, like, parties and stuff. You mean to tell me there was no alcohol in that Mario Odyssey level, like, at all? There was no alc to be found? You cannot do all that and be sober, bro. And Peach, I mean, come on, dude. She's seen some things. She's been captured. Like, she probably carries a flask with her, dude. Like, I could have put her in the upper tier that I'm going to talk about right now. Like, the day drinkers, the often drinkers. Like, I could have put her right up there. So, Cat Peach is what I put up here because I feel like when she turns into Cat Peach, she gets a little bit more turnt. Kind of like how Toadette and Peachette are. I think that makes sense. Nabbit definitely does because he's an outlaw, and drinking alcohol is like one of the most outlawish things he can do. I mean, they banned it in the US for a couple years, and look what happened. Link for sure throws him down. He washes down his Jimmy John's with a nice bottle of beer. Hammer Bro, I feel like he definitely hammers them down. Plus, he's throwing hammers around. Like, you got to be kind of drunk to throw hammers around. Rosalina I have in this tier of the day drinkers because I feel like she's kind of like Whis from Dragon Ball, where it's like she's just gonna try it all because it's there and she's kind of like been away from Earth for a while, so you're like, wow, so this is a Jaeger bomb, like something like that. The penguin from Mario 64, that's definitely seen some things, man. You cannot tell me that throwing that child over the edge for like the last 20 years hasn't affected it enough to start drinking. Goomba, I feel like that just comes with the practice, If you're a Goomba and you're on the job and you're still alive, you know how many people you've seen perish? Your own kind, your own flesh and blood die right in front of you. I'd be in the bar daily if I was a Goomba. He went to the Mario parties. This Goomba's seen some things, man. So Toad I have up here, mainly just because it's like, he's basically Peach's right-hand man, so he's definitely seen a lot of things too. He probably drinks a lot, especially on his off time. I think of like him and how chaotic he is, and then I think of the Stone Toad, because Stone Toad said so. Captain Toad I have here too. I mean, being lost in a cave kind of does that to you, right? Now, Donkey Kong, you mean to tell me all those barrels are just full of bananas or shoot you around? If there are barrels with alcohol in the Mario world, something's not adding up here. It'd probably take like a couple barrels to knock this guy out, but that's all I'm saying. I mean, come on. Funky Kong, remember how I said, Diddy might get a sip from his beer or two? I feel like he's the cool uncle who would let you do that, He kind of slides it to you and he's like, here, taste it. It's like, that's gross, get out of here, and he's laughing at you. That's the kind of uncle I think Funky Kong is. He's one funky uncle. He's one funky unky. Daisy? Do I need to say anything else? It's Daisy, like, go figure. And then Kamek and Bowser. Kamek is more of like a wine out of a chalice guy, and Bowser's more crude with it. He'll down beers, he'll probably throw them at Bowser Jr. a couple times. Kind of that guy. And finally, the alcoholics. Alright, Wario and Waluigi, I feel like they definitely spend most of their money on alcohol. I genuinely think that most of their attempts are to buy things for that kind of like instant gratification. You don't think he's gonna do something with that money? Now I have Isabelle up here mainly just because it's like the only thing harder than being the mayor is probably being the mayor's secretary. So of course she drinks, dude. Like I would be drinking too. She's had to take care of like 5 or 6 things, like a campsite, 3 different islands. Like, oh my god, forget about it. Now, King Bob-omb definitely drinks a lot, and he has a problem. I mean, he gets like a short fuse all the time, and he blows up on people. That's definitely alcoholism. He's definitely an alcoholic. This might be a hot take, but I definitely think the wrench mole guy does. Mainly just because, you know, he throws wrenches and he's an engineer. I feel like being an engineer kind of means you're going to be an alcoholic. Or so I've heard. Penultimately, the Tamagotchis, like, they definitely drink, dude. I mean, if I had to watch people be made and killed in front of me, and people come out disfigured and looking like hamburgers and stuff, I would be concerned too. And that leaves our mustached friend, Mario. Honestly, if this Mario was like from a crude YouTube animator, he would definitely drink and he'd probably break it on his head and like call Peach a bitch and like, you know, say a couple slurs and call it a day. But I honestly think he's more of a social drinker. I'm sure, you know, under the right circumstances, he'd definitely, you know, open a cold one and enjoy it. I feel like he would definitely be that kind of guy. You know, he is from Brooklyn after all, and one of the brothers got a drink, so it's definitely gonna be him. Tanuki Mario? That dude's an alcoholic. Now this is great news, but there's one more problem we gotta face, and that's what tracks would be good to drive on if you're drinking and driving. There are way more things to consider. It should be an optimal road, you know, smooth, not too many fast turns or uphill routes, so my alcohol doesn't fall, you know, or spill out. I should be able to do this on the track. Underwater section, zero gravity, that should be optional or just avoidable altogether, especially because, you know, you're drinking something, you know, I don't want seawater in my Jack Daniels. And you know, atmosphere as well. And since there are way too many tracks, I picked the best and worst from each game with a couple honorable mentions. Starting back off with Super Mario Kart, the dishonorable mention here is just all the Bowser's castles in general, especially the one with the dead end. I hate that one. That one's so evil. The worst track though is Choco Island 2, mainly because it's really bad terrain and you're driving through mud a lot. And the one thing worse than water in your alcohol is mud in your alcohol. So I feel like that would just be gross. Unless it's like chocolate frosting or something, but even then that's kind of gross. Especially like the dirt road too. It's just not a good track to drink on. Here's my honorable mention, Mario Circuit. I feel like just driving on like a racetrack that's pretty open, you know, some obstacles, but being able to turn and stuff, that just feels nice, you know? Like that's something I would want to do. The winner is Koopa Beach 1. I think that's the best track on this game, mainly just because it's a nice open beach. You know, you get to drive in the water a little bit, but not too much, not enough to make it annoying. That's the problem with Koopa Beach 2. It has too much open water sections that you have to drive through if you want to win. So next we go up to 64. So my dishonorable mention is the Frappe Snowland. So see, the problem is it's really slippery and it's very cold out there, which is good for keeping this cool, but like, you know, I don't know, I feel like I'd want to be warmer in this kind of stupor. But the downright worst one is Choco Mountain, because there's like obstacles that'll kill you, you'll fall into the water, you're on the cliff, so of course you're gonna be a little anxious looking over, and it's just not that good of a time. Now here's one that low-key might shock you a little bit. I have Wario Stadium and Rainbow Road as honorable mentions. Wario Stadium is pretty badass, and it goes against everything I said about having a good track to drink on. And that's why I like it, because you wouldn't want to drink or down something and then go on that track and have fun? Like, come on. And Rainbow Road, beautiful track, probably the most beautiful one in the series. Nothing too crazy, you know, no loop-the-loops, at least from what I remember, so it's a good track. But of course, the winner is Toad's Turnpike. I mean, this is the optimal drunk driving experience, I guess, simulator. Yeah, this is the optimal drunk driving simulator. You got traffic simulation, it's at night, so it's all pretty. You know, there's road rage. Beautiful stuff, man. So Super Circuit is a really interesting game to me. I think it's an underrated Mario Kart, but I feel like it's kind of hard to drink and drive while playing any Mario game, really. So here's my dishonorable mention. Lakeside Park. Now, the only reason I say this track is because there's a section where you have to do this sick-ass jump. And if you fail that jump, you have to go around the curve again. And that pisses me off. So no, I don't like that track. But without a doubt, the worst one to drive on is Broken Pier. The vibes are off completely, unlike Lakeside Park, which is really good vibe-wise. Vibes are horribly off. The pier's broken, and you fall into like this black water, like nut. But the honorable mentions I have are Cheeseland and Peach Circuit. Peach Circuit, a lot like Mario Circuit, and you have this dope-ass view of the castle, so it's kind of nice, you know? Cheese goes well with wine, and it's a pretty cool track to look at. Like, you can just kind of scoop the ground and eat it. That's pretty badass. But in my mind, the best one is Cheep Cheep Island. You get to drive on the pier, on the beach, it's a beautiful sunset, and it gave us this beautiful photo of Donkey Kong. How could you not want to drive up next to him and just, you know, pound one real quick? Pause. Pause! Pause! Speaking of DK Mountain on Double Dash. I don't really like that one for drinking, especially because it's bumpy. At least it's downhill, so your alcohol's going to go that way instead of that way. I mean, this one's a little bit cooler in respects to, like, active volcanoes, because it just feels cooler. And the worst one to drive in would be Wario Coliseum. Now, you're just suspended in the air. You have to do, like, that little, like, loop-de-loop thing. It's just not that good. I personally like the design of the track, but for this, not so much. And from Double Dash, we got Peach Beach as our honorable mention. It's a quick track, very fast, lots of water, but the Cataquacks will drink your booze, so you gotta be careful. And without a doubt, the winner from this one, for me at least, is Mushroom City. Similar to Toad's Turnpike, it's the perfect simulation of drunk driving. You know, I think it's a great idea. DS. I grew up on this game, so, you know, this one I think has one of the most tracks to pick from, except for Wii, which we'll get to. So the dishonorable mentions I have, Airship Fortress and Mushroom Ridge. So, Mushroom Ridge is, like, the worst thing that could happen to you if you're drunk driving, because you're driving on the edge of the track, where there's, like, a giant fall, and that's not what you want. And it's daytime, and there's nothing wrong with day drinking, but the vibes are better at nighttime. In Airship Fortress, you're in the middle of an active war zone where, yes, alcohol is probably being consumed, but also, like, you're trying not to get shot at here. But the loser for sure is Banshee Boardwalk. Vibes are off. The Cheep Cheeps can hit you. There's bats everywhere. It's just not a good vibe, not a good time. Definitely better tracks out there, especially with that stupid room where you have to, like, drift this way and then drift that way, and it's like, it's pointless. I don't like it. And my honorable mention from here, Delfino Square and Peach's Garden. Why Peach's Garden? Because I like that track. It's daytime and it's a nice leisurely stroll through the park, essentially. Like, that's nice. Delfino Square, just go figure. I feel like that's the perfect place to, you know, drink and unwind a little on your drive. And the winner for me, it was close, is Yoshi Falls. Yoshi Falls just makes sense for me as a track. Like, it just works, if that makes sense. Like, the vibes are there. It's nice and chill. There is water, but it's avoidable. And it's just a nice view of a giant egg and water, and it's nice. Whee! Now, my dishonorable mention for this track is Toad's Factory, mainly for the mud. And because of how panicked it is and how many times you could get crushed or hit, it's just too chaotic for its own good. But the loser is the volcano. I forget the name. I think it's Grumble Volcano. That's what I have in my notes here. Grumble Volcano. It's an active volcano. Why would I want to drive in an active volcano that's crumbling to the ground? That just sounds awful. It's gonna be way too hot in there. The glass might probably start melting, and I'm gonna be sweating profusely the whole time. Honorable mentions here. We got Koopa Cape, DK Summit, Daisy Circuit, and Coconut Mall. All four of those tracks, mainly because they all offer something a little bit different. Koopa Cape's at the bottom, mainly just because it's crazy, but being able to drive through like an aquarium and not get wet is pretty cool to me. Then you have DK Summit. Again, you're probably gonna spill some alcohol, but it's such a cool vibe. How could you not want to do that? Daisy Circuit, this is definitely second place, mainly just because it's like a sunset theme and it's pretty and it's beautiful. Oh, you know what? I'm gonna put this at number 1. I was thinking about it right now. It deserves number 1. It does. And you know why? Because the vibes are there, it's beautiful, and there's nothing else like it in this game. Alright? So that means our other two were Coconut Mall and Moonview Highway. Moonview Highway is great, but it's too chaotic, and there are two tracks that do what it wants to do better already. And then Coconut Mall is a classic. It's chaotic, it's fun, but Daisy Circuit, you won me over in the end. So Mario Kart 7, at least for drinking, is not a very good game. You got Rocky Mountain. That's a horrible track for driving and drinking on, especially because you're flying everywhere and you got that uphill section, so your alcohol is going to go down that way. Wario Shipyard as well. Too much water, way too much water. Pretty cool though. Music Park, the constant bouncing and the constant music, you know, it's like a club, but a lot more moshy. And Piranha Plant Pipeway, I think that's what it's called. This track is fine, but you're literally going through a sewer. Like, are you the Ninja Turtles? Are you Michelangelo? Because I want to be Michelangelo. You could be Raphael or somebody, but I'm Michelangelo. But without a doubt, the worst one is Cheep Cheep Lagoon, because half of it is underwater. So, I mean, if you want to go back and forth in that, like, one patch of grass in the pier, be my guest. But, I mean, it's just not that good, because it takes place underwater, so you're going to have to down your drink before you even start. And the honorable mention for 7 is Woohoo Mountain Loop, or whatever it is. It does it so well, and it does it at sunset, which I feel like is the perfect time to unwind with one of these. And I feel like that just does it perfectly. It's a great track, but there are some obstacles that make it kind of annoying, like especially like the rock and getting hit by the rock. That's kind of annoying, but it's a good track nonetheless. And I think the winner for this one, Rainbow Road. And this kind of freaks me out a little bit, but I like it. It's a nice track, and it makes you do some cool stuff. Sure, you're gonna spill some alcohol, but the vibes are gonna be immaculate. And I think second to 64 Rainbow Road and Deluxe, this is probably the best one out of all the Rainbow Roads to be drinking on, for sure. For sure! So my 2 dishonorables are the blue one and the ice. Mainly just because they're both kind of cold and unforgiving in their own ways. And I mean, you're going down a water slide chugging a beer, that's not very fun. The loser for 8 is Twisted Manor, or Twisted Mansion, whatever it is. Mainly because you're asking people to go sideways, go underwater, like sharp turns, you're gonna get hit by so much stuff. It's literally everything you don't want in a track to drink and drive on in a track. And for our honorable mentions, we got Wild Woods, Strictly for Vibes, and Sunshine Airport, because that is beautiful. It's just, oh man, the vibes in Sunshine Airport are amazing. It's like what the airport should be like, in my opinion. And the winner is Rainbow Road 64, one of the only retro tracks to make it, just because of how beautifully crafted it is. It just makes the original so much better in every single way. If there's one thing I like more than Rainbow Road, it's being able to drink and drive on Rainbow Road. And finally, Mario Kart World, which I own on this Nintendo Switch too. It's a good game. Definitely played it. You can probably, like, it was a good disguise, but I haven't played it yet. From what I've seen from the footage, there is a freeway track, as shown by the Lakitu on screen right now, following traffic safety laws. I think that'd be a good track to drink and drive on. But let me know what you think, at least for World. You know, you're probably not going to comment all your favorites. After all that, it's safe to say Mario definitely probably does drink and drive. Definitely. You know, he definitely likes to unwind a bit. Probably drinks every once in a while with or without Peach. You know, probably eggs Luigi on to do it. Like, if I were Mario, I would definitely drink. And maybe there's something to learn from this whole video.